All right. My bad for coughing in everyone's ear. I apologize. Excuse me. Today's going to be a little different from our normal programming, but we'll start it the same way by recognizing our top sponsors. Just want to give a huge shout out to our top sponsors. There is more to come for this list. We have FPEA. They're strong. They've been there a while. We really appreciate that. They do have a convention coming up, so make sure to check out. If you're not on their emailing list, go right on over to their website and get on their emailing list. It is still the largest homeschooling convention in the state of Florida. It's huge. Um, and we thank them for being a sponsor, and we look forward to joining them there. So if you haven't had a chance, especially if you're a vendor and you want to have a booth there, I know that we're thinking about having one for Crystal's author um, business that she does. So very, very highly contemplating that. You guys, if you haven't checked it out, get on over there and show them some love. Tell them thank you for supporting everything that we do as the home education lobbyists over here because they're a huge supporter. So, excuse me. I hope I don't do that all stream long. Um, Crystal, test your mic real quick.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. We
Okay.
were having some technical difficulties with your mic earlier, so I wanted to make sure before I just dive right in and you start lip syncing to nothing that we have it right. So, all right, that is set up and good. We are missing Brenda today, beloved Brenda, if you can believe it. Her voice is in worse shape than mine. I don't know what's going on, but it's going. Um, so that's a thing. Brenda, we miss you. We love you. We hope you're in the comments somewhere. If you have something to say, text me or type it in, and obviously we'll get it on. Oh, sorry. Yeah. A little bit of recap. Last week we had the call with Step Up, where we take the home education instructional programs and we take the director of Step Up and we have a call and we workshop some of the difficulties that are being had. And Crystal, we did that. Crystal always does an update in our forum to kind of recap that. Crystal, do you want to run it down?
Sure. Yeah. So last week, the majority of the call was spent discussing individual issues that the specific home education instructional programs who were on the call have been having. So when I did the recap, I didn't really go into that because the ones who were on the call were already on the call. And a lot of those issues were specific to their groups or their attempts to get onboarded as providers.
Right.
But I did post some more general highlights in the forum. There's a post there that you'll find. It's just called Highlights of Today's Call with Step Up 12/6/2023. If you haven't seen it, you can find it there in the PEP FAQ section. But basically, just some highlights for parents about submitting reimbursements. Like if you pay in advance for the full year for a home education instructional program, you can immediately submit that for a full reimbursement. But there are specific some data that needs to be on that invoice showing that it's non-refundable and some other things in order to ensure that it will get processed to you as a full reimbursement rather than a partial one, because
Mhm.
they have some guidelines as to how far in advance they can reimburse something for. Like if the classes aren't happening for months, but you've paid up front, they can only reimburse that full amount if your invoice shows that it was non-refundable. So that's in the post. Um, Also, just
Real
some.
quick, what's the name of the post so if people go looking for it?
I said it a second ago, but it's called Highlights of Today's Call with
Sorry.
Step Up 12/6
Okay.
2023.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and then the other highlight for parents in the post, um, there was just a little information about standardized tests. They told us on the call that they
Mhm.
have not even started processing anyone who's applied this year to be a new provider for standardized testing fees. So if I've had some parents messaging me like there don't
Mhm.
seem to be very many options in the marketplace for testing. Well, that's why. Um,
Yeah.
and the standardized tests for PEP don't really have to be done until the end of the school year. So you can expect to see them adding more providers over the next few weeks and months. So I just had that information in there just for parents to know what's going on. And then there were some tips in the post also for parents about if you're having tuition for a home education instructional program denied or the processors are trying to recategorize it as tutoring.
Mhm.
We just had some tips for trying to avoid that happening.
Mhm.
The head of PEP at Step Up is going to be talking to processors and making sure that they're all properly trained on what a home education instructional program is and what the criteria are, and so that they don't try to recategorize that. But in the meantime, make sure you're submitting it under the correct category,
Yeah.
which would be home education tuition, and then there's a drop down and you select tuition from the drop down, and then there's another drop down where you would select in person because you're doing
Yeah.
in person classes. Um, if you're
I will
submitting it
say this. Oh, go ahead.
if you're submitting it under tutoring or curriculum or something else, you might be confusing the processors who are not as familiar with home
Mm.
education instructional programs. Not that I'm saying that that's the only reason these are being denied, it's not, but we're just trying to minimize any cause that they might have for confusion, is what we're trying to do.
Right.
And then the other thing would be one of the home education instructional program leaders suggested actually typing home education instructional program in the description box when you upload your reimbursement. So there's like a type in box where you can write like
For
the
other.
educational benefit or whatever. Not for other. It's like on
Oh,
every
it's
reimbursement, there's a description box where they want you to type in like how this to show the educational benefit.
okay.
Um, she suggested typing in home education instructional program right there in that box so
Mm.
that they see that information on the reimbursement and even handwriting home education instructional program on the invoice or receipt before you upload it, just so
Mhm.
they know for sure that that's what it is
As
that you're
as
submitting.
many, yeah, as many
Um,
like markers as
yeah,
possible
as
for
many markers as possible
making
because
it obvious.
the reality is that they have a lot of new processors that they're still training, and so we're
Every
just trying
business
to
also has turnover, so you have to keep that in
yeah.
mind.
So we're just
Yeah,
trying to minimize any cause for confusion for the
sure.
processors, in
I
order
will say though,
to get these processed more efficiently.
there was, and I can't speak about specifically what it was, because it. I don't want to jump the gun in any way, but there was talk about certain aspects of that being loosened to make it easier to streamline a lot of that stuff. So
Yeah, they
we're
did on the policy end. They have uh,
mhm.
changed a few things to make the requirements for a home education instructional program a little more broad on their processing end. Um,
So you should see the effects of that soon, and maybe in the next couple of weeks or so, we can speak more specifically as they fine tune that
yeah,
about what those are. But
yeah, because
yeah,
there are some details and concerns that need to be worked out with that.
for
But
sure.
yeah.
It's good.
And then the other highlight probably was just for home education instructional program leaders. There are some tips if you're leading a home education instructional program. There are some tips on how to set up your services in the marketplace if you're offering direct pay services. Um, and it's still advised to try to get approved as a provider even if you don't intend to offer direct pay services because their goal is to shorten processing times by having as many pre-vetted, pre-authorized programs on the drop-down list as possible because then the processors don't have to do all the legwork of actually checking out your program, going to your website, researching it, and all of that.
So Philip asks, can the home education instructional program designation also apply to Mr. D Math live classes?
If it is an online course, that does not qualify as a home education instructional program.
Correct, as of now.
One of the criteria in the list for home education instructional programs is that it needs to be at a physical location.
Physical location.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yes.
those classes should be reimbursable, but it would not be under that category. It would need to go
Right.
under a
Yeah.
different
It
category.
doesn't mean PEP
Yeah.
doesn't cover it. Right. That's a good question though. Really, really good. Another Michelle says another important point on home education programs is that category is strictly for businesses that serve only home education students.
Yes.
I
that
had to think
is
about that for a second too.
yeah, that is the purpose, although I think I've seen some reimbursements go through for, places that just have, like, say, a branch of their business that serves homeschoolers, but they do other things too. But yeah, I the actual criteria and the way that they're written are designed for a business whose sole purpose is offering classes to homeschooling families. That's the way that the criteria are written in the purchasing guide.
Hmm. All right. So upcoming, we're going to be watching. I mean, I think that's all from the call that we had to kind of go over and recap, right?
Yeah,
Correct
and
me if
you
I'm
can go
wrong.
back. Yeah, there's probably some details and nuances, but you can read the post if you're wanting the full breakdown of the information.
Sure.
The other thing that I
Um.
did put in the post that we may want to mention is that the head of PEP at Step Up is taking a look at our other forum post.
Oh, right.
It's the priority suggestions for PEP improvement. He actually is now in our forum, just kind of,
He's there.
lurking.
He's there.
um,
If you're typing something, he sees you.
But no, we gave him access to our forum so that he could actually see for himself the concerns that parents are presenting. And so if you have a concern, I know I haven't responded to it yet. So if this is you, I did see your message. We had a message come in today through, I think, Facebook. Another parent, similar to Deline Howell, who had some students switch to PEP and some who still aren't, and she's tried all the things and contacted and submitted tickets and is getting really no good information back. Those kinds of things, if that is something that you're experiencing, or another big picture issue like that is not specific to your account, but is more of like a this is an issue that multiple parents are experiencing, you can go drop it on that forum post in the comments because the Step Up director of PEP is looking at that post and
Yeah.
communicating
Yep.
some of those issues to his team to see if they can get things improved for us. So,
Absolutely. We've had a couple more comments come in, so I'll read them off. Philip has a follow up, and he says, "What about local Christian schools that also have a home education cooperative program?" So I'm
um,
assuming that they're
if you're talking about
private schools.
a private school does not qualify as a home education instructional program. There is a different category in the purchasing
Right.
guide for part-time classes at a private school.
Does not mean that it cannot assist
Yeah,
part
you
time.
might be able to get it covered under as long as the school is a qualified scholarship school.
Mm.
You might be able to get it covered under part-time private school classes, but
Yeah.
the home education instructional program does not include private schools, and I think it says that in the description in the
Yeah. The
purchasing.
handbook
I was gonna
is
look.
the updated handbook is on Step Up for Students website, and it is
Yeah.
pretty descriptive about what and how
Yeah,
things
there
are
are
covered.
very specific criteria, and I might not
Hmm.
have the very latest version, so, it may be on a different page, but in the one I'm looking at, it's on page 10,
Hmm.
and it actually says there private schools, virtual schools, and public or charter schools are not considered home education programs.
Right.
That doesn't
Doesn't
mean that
mean they're not.
it wouldn't yeah, it doesn't mean that it won't be covered, it might be, but
Yeah.
it would not be under that category.
There is a section that allows part-time
Yeah.
classes to be taken and covered. So, Maria, or sorry, Myra. I'm sorry, my dyslexia kicked in, and I put the I before the or after the R. Myra says my kid's piano teacher has credentials and can the lesson be reimbursed as a tutoring, um, or does it have to be under elective?
So that is something that um, I'm trying to get more information on because technically, music classes, art classes, cooking classes, all of those
Yeah,
things count as electives. Um,
yeah,
so I understand that some parents are trying to get around the electives cap by submitting those as tutoring if the teacher is qualified as a tutor. But I can't say for sure whether that's going to be recategorized on Step Ups End as an elective anyway because it falls into those elective
yeah.
categories. So even if your instructor meets all the tutoring criteria, they may still put it under the electives cap because it's an elective. However, we're working to get the caps removed altogether. So if
We're
we are successful in that, we don't make the decisions, we just advocate for them, right? But
nothing's final yet. It's
if we
always a
are
part of the
successful,
conversation. Yeah.
yes, but if we are successful in that, then it wouldn't matter how
Hmm.
they categorized it in terms of caps. As long as it's covered,
Yeah.
it's covered.
It
That's
would
our
become a
goal.
mere
Yeah.
technicality and not necessarily a necessity.
Yes.
Yeah. Good, 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 good. If there are other questions, continue to post them. I'll get to them as I can roll them. Um, I don't see any additional ones. Is there anything else you wanted to say to cap that off or
Um,
finalize
I
that part
don't
of the
think
conversation?
I don't think
All
so.
right,
No.
cool. I'm trying not to cough in everybody's ears. So next,
I'm the
what's
only one
coming
with
up?
a functional voice today. So
Yeah, but I'm gonna use it. Next, what's coming up for us is tomorrow. Actually, we are going to be tuning in to the Florida House of Representatives, and there are some committee meetings that we want to keep an eye on. One of them is Education and Employment Committee meeting, and the other one is the Post Secondary Education and Workforce Subcommittee. There are some very interesting things happening in the world in general right now, generationally speaking. Um, it is becoming, I think that a lot of young people are watching what's happening on social media, and I don't think as many young people necessarily read the newspaper when they were my age. I don't remember reading the newspaper, but I think far more young people are on social media now than there were young people who read the newspaper when I was younger. So there's a bit more information that they have about the world around them. And many of them are looking at things like school and saying, yeah, it's not for me. I don't know what I want to do. And they're looking for alternative paths to skills and things like that. And so keeping our eye on the post secondary education and the workforce subcommittee, how it might impact home education is definitely something that we are doing. That's
yeah,
one of the committees we're watching.
and also just because when I spoke to Brenda about this earlier, um, she mentioned it's also just important to keep an eye on just in general what's happening in the state. Like, what direction are they moving in with things? The big picture of the developments that they're working on and how it might impact things in the future. So it's
Yep.
um, not just about what they might be discussing in the committees now, but kind of watching for those general trends of what it looks like, the direction that things are moving in
So
our state.
keep us in mind tomorrow. We'll be there listening as your lobbyist on your behalf. So if you grab a cup of coffee for yourself, at least make sure to jump over and drop a cup of coffee in our support tray on the website. That'd be great. It's going to be a long day of committee meetings, so that's going to
Yes.
be interesting. And then what we'll do is from that we'll follow up, of course, next week with information that we've garnered from it that we think is relevant. If there's anything that's really important, we'll let you know right on the
Yeah.
Facebook page or in our forum. So keep that in mind. One of the I just want to stress real quick while I mention that we talk about the forum and the Facebook page together. I just want it to be made clear as a marketer, and that's what I've been doing for the last decade. Um, it's always in the back of my head, the little voice that says, "You don't own Facebook." So if tomorrow Facebook decides to do whatever they want to do with their company, if Meta decides to shut it down, um, we always want to have our own place that people can go and not lose touch with us. If they just decide that home education people are wackadoos and extremists and we don't want them on the platform, okay, cool. Yeah, we'll still have a place where you can follow the forum. That's one of the reasons why the forum truly exists,
Yeah.
is to make
And
sure there's an accurate place for information to be able to be shared.
just to add to that, if you create a site member account and you go into our forum, our PEP FAQ category is our most popular category, but it's not
Hmm.
our only category in
No,
the
it's not.
forum. And we actually have one called 2024 legislative updates,
Mhm.
because these are the sessions that are starting now are for the 2024 legislative
Yes, so
changes,
keep your
right?
eye on that one.
So if you can actually go and click follow
Follow.
on the categories that you want to get notified, if I create a new
Hmm.
post. So if there is something that we see in tomorrow's legislative sessions that's important to communicate, that's where it's going to go. It's going to go into the legislative update section of the forum. So I would suggest everybody who has a site member account go and click follow on that category. So you'll be sure that you
Yeah.
see the notifications if we do anything, not just tomorrow, but we're going to be watching the legislative updates for the next month or 2.
30 years for the next 30 years.
Well, yes, but the big legislative sessions happen in January, and we're so starting from now through the end of January, we're, like, on the
We're,
alert watching everything. So
yes,
there will
we're with you.
be there will be posts there if there's anything that needs to be communicated out to you guys.
Yes. So that's what we'll be keeping our eye on. I also would like to say that I'm trying to keep up with comments, make sure there's none more.
Oh, if you're not in the forum, it's flhef.org/forum.
Yes, and I do a pinned post every
Okay.
stream now that goes up there, so that link is available. Um, we are working. Speaking about post secondary opportunities, we are working with I want to call them an entity, a mission, an objective. They have more than just a mission. They have an entire outfit put together where they work specifically on job readiness and post secondary opportunities. And it's in Trinity, Florida, and we're working on having a discovery day at their facility. Um, January, I don't want to get the date wrong. I think it's the last Friday in January. That would make it the 26th. That's
Yeah,
what I was
this is
going to
for,
say,
like,
but I want to make sure.
uh, vocational technical career opportunities for
Yeah.
students, like.
And so we'll be posting the specifics of that program. It's going to be a special day just for home education families. They've decided to kind of help us put one together. And next week we're going to have. Uh, she's told me that she'll be here with us, so I'll go ahead and say it. But we'll have Kim Hannon on. She's the one who put together the Tampa Bay Homeschool conference, and was that July? That was excuse me, over the summer, wasn't it?
I think it was July.
I'm getting my fog brain right now is getting
I think it
my
was
dates
July.
mixed up. Okay, it was fantastic. Brenda spoke for almost an hour and talked about the history of home education and the importance of it. And Frederick Gray was there this year as one of the keynotes. I think he was the MC for the event this year. So it was a great one. Anyway, she's going to be with us. She's helping us put it all together. Um, so her and us working together, putting all that January 26th. So if your children are expressing interest in that kind of thing, follow along. We'll post out some more information so you guys will know. And of course, next
Yeah,
week we'll
be
have her
sure to
on with
catch
us and we'll
next
talk
week's
more
live
about
stream.
it. Yeah. Well, I think my voice is done.
Are there any
But
any additional questions that I can hit from the comments before we'll keep
uh,
today short since your voice is struggling.
yeah, yeah. I don't see any. I don't see any coming in. I'll keep an eye on it as we roll out, and if there are, we'll hit them. But just want to say thank you to everybody who's watching. If you are, excuse me, we were at a party this weekend, um, and there were a bunch of people there from all over Florida, um, and it was interesting. Some of them homeschooled that we didn't know were homeschoolers, and we started talking about HEF and what it is we're doing, and it just constantly blows my mind that there are people who don't know we exist. Um, we still get emails where people are like, "Oh my goodness, a friend told me about you that I need an advocate. Can you help?" And we love seeing those because it means we're helping and we know it, and two, it means you guys are out there sharing the message, letting people know that they do have a voice in the Capitol and they have someone who represents them, and that's important to us. That's really what we're trying to do. Make sure that parents have the last word when it comes to the education of their children and how they raise their home. So, been a while. Oh, Katie Lane says, been a while since I've been on, but we officially have an individual empowerment plan with vocational rehab as a special needs homeschooler. Exciting, Katie. That's awesome. That's really, really cool. We met with, oh man, yeah, it just feels like this whole weekend was mixed with people who have been impacted by what we have been working on this past year. Um, so if you have uh, uh it's okay. I got what you meant. Um, if you have someone that you know who could benefit from what we share, share the videos, share the community, um, the forum, the Facebook page. Invite them in, let them interact. There's so much we have to offer. If you have a co-op or a home education instructional program, and you have a swath of new parents that don't know what their rights are or how they're secure and what they have, we offer um, live workshops with them. I think they go about an hour. We can schedule one up with you. Reach out to us where we can comb through the legislation and give your community that sense of security about how their rights are confirmed in legislation, and they can walk into their home education experience confidently and hit the ground running. So, also, we have lots of other connections that we can offer to them. So, to help them feel undergirded in their choices, I think a lot of parents are just scared because they don't know where to start, so they never do. And we want them to know where they can start. So, anywho, with that being said, we'll call today to a close. And once again, we'll thank our top sponsors, FPEA. If you haven't seen what they're doing, or if you have been thinking about maybe going to the convention, maybe not, I don't know, kicking it around, go check it out. Go show them some love. They're showing us love. So thank you all for being here and watching. Crystal, anything else before we bounce out?
If you have any questions that you didn't get to type in today, you can come post them in the
Hit at the
forum or
forum
send them to us. Yeah.
for sure. All right. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful Monday.